all of the God-fearing people that we know would never do this sort of thing.
No.
Ugh, it makes me sick. Hello, welcome to Guide to the Unknown. I am Kristen.
And I'm her little brother, William.
And this week we are going back to the Wikipedia page for urban legends to keep working our way through the alphabet.
This is a fairly recent voyage that we've gone on.
Yeah, this is only our second episode doing this.
And I love what we have set out to do.
It's great.
Someday we will be able to look back and say we have covered every single urban legend that exists.
I know.
But I did take a note for those in need of continuity. We first started covering every urban legend in episode 263.
Yeah.
So this is picking up from there. We're literally going to Wikipedia's list of urban legends, which seems fairly extensive.
Yeah.
And we are going to be doing letter A and part of letter B today, which means that we're going to start with me because we're going alphabetically. This is literally like a fastidious... particular persnickety view of urban legends as we try to comb through them. So we got to keep an order.
That's right.
Which is why I'm going to start off by talking about an urban legend that I don't think I ever would have called an urban legend.
I have something like that too.
Yeah. The aerial water bomber picking up a scuba diver legend.
Oh, everybody's favorite cautionary tale from their hometown.
I know. Urban legend is a term that gets used fast and loose.
Yeah.
Right. I think I've mentioned on the show previously that this is like a very deliberate term that was partially coined by a folklorist named Jan Harold Brunvand. And part of the original definition of urban legend is that it's told as a narrative.
Right.
That seems to not be the case with everything on this list, which I'm more than fine with. I'm happy to play fast and loose with the term. To me... let's just go ahead and redefine urban legend for Guide to the Unknown's purposes.
Great.
An urban legend is a story, whether it's literally narrative or just something that people tell each other about something bad that has probably happened to somebody somewhere.
Yeah.
But more likely than not, it never happened to anyone anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just a fun, scary story.
That's basically all that I think of as well.
I think that's the commonly accepted usage of urban legend, but it was originally coined by learned types.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
It was an academic label.
People from academia, exactly. But it's evolved.
And the Wikipedia page seems to treat just like any rumor.
Anything. Any any kind of boundless, even things that are deliberately fictional from the jump are sometimes on the list.
Yes.
Yes. So the aerial water bomber picking up a scuba diver legend.
I can hardly process all of those words together.
That's why I'm going to reset it. Here's what the story is. There's a fire, like a forest fire, right? And then the firefighters put it out. And then as they're going through these sort of like burned wreckage of these woods, a corpse is found.
Okay.
An inexplicable corpse that doesn't seem to have died by burning. There is a body in the trees.
Oh.
Not just any body. This is a person who is wearing scuba diving gear. Might even still have the mask over their face, the aerator in their mouth, the flippers on their feet.
I feel like that's some like lost shit.
Yes, like a polar bear being on a tropical island.
Yeah.
Yes, the point is, how did a scuba diver end up in a tree in a fire?
Right.
So here's what I've got to explain it. Some of this is from Snopes. Here's part of the way that they would explain this. Fire authorities in California found a corpse in a burned-out section of forest while assessing the damage done by a forest fire. The deceased male was dressed in a full wetsuit, complete with a dive tank, flippers, and face mask. A post-mortem examination revealed that the person died not from burns, but from massive internal injuries. Dental records provided a positive identification. Investigators then set about determining how a fully clad diver ended up in the middle of a forest fire. It was revealed that on the day of the fire, the person went for a diving trip off the coast, some 20 kilometers away from the forest. The firefighters, seeking to control the fire, called in a fleet of helicopters with very large buckets.
Okay.
They dipped these buckets. I'm now moving away from the quote. Yeah. They dipped their buckets in the water accidentally scooped up a diver and dumped him along with the water into the forest fire to put out the flames.
What a freak accident.
Bingo, bango, bongo.
That's horrible.
Fully clad scuba diver ends up in the tree in a forest fire, didn't die by fire, dies from the injuries sustained from being dropped out of a helicopter.
That is terrible.
Well, I have great news for you because it's never happened.
Okay, good.
There is not a single recorded instance of
As
this
soon as you
ever
gave
happening.
a chuckle, I figured it must not be real.
Yeah, the sort of like the dirty little secret
Yeah.
of urban legends is that they have never happened before. A lot of the time it seems to be, and some of this is going to be my editorializing. It's similar to stuff that we've talked about on the show before. Some of them are almost, not in this case, obviously, but some urban legends are almost cautionary tales.
Yeah, or sometimes it's something that is factual, but it's very tweaked.
Yeah.
Or something. So that's what I was thinking. Maybe this was, perhaps somebody was dropped in this manner somewhere, but not quite these details.
Yeah,
I'm glad
somebody
it's
whips
totally
up a story around
Yeah.
it. Yeah, there's not a single case of this ever happening. And in fact,
Fabulous.
it's incredibly unlikely for it to ever happen because
Imagine.
helicopters don't just have some gigantic Mr. Bucket that they're dipping into
I mean,
the
it
ocean.
seems like the bucket would have to be like as big as the helicopter
Yeah,
for this to happen and pick up a person by accident. For
certainly
them-
way bigger than the guy.
exactly. For them to just get kind of like swept back into it.
I know, like dunking a huge soup ladle into a lake.
Right.
I don't think so. That certainly doesn't happen.
No, I can't imagine.
So also still from Snopes, usually it is what is called a bombardier water tank that is used to scoop up water. And it's not just some open topped bucket, like some Halloween candy bucket. It usually has a 1 foot wide opening for
Okay.
the water to rush in.
Yeah.
1 foot, meaning it's too small an opening for a swimmer to be like trying to frantically swim against the current and
And
get
wearing
sucked
scuba
in.
diving gear.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be like the plot of like, one of the Alien movies where like somebody pokes a hole in the hull of a ship and everything gets sucked out through like a dime-sized hole.
Right.
Doesn't happen that
Or a
way.
very weird Final Destination segment.
Yes, absolutely. There are also heli-tankers, which are literally helicopters that have a fixed tank on them that suck up water through a hose, which is known as a, quote, donkey dick.
Oh, okay.
I wonder who came up with that clever. Is this like an official term? Snopes used it.
Maybe it is just it's just become a colloquial thing that they all say.
I'm assuming this is the proper term.
Yeah.
The opening of the hose is only a couple of inches in diameter. Now, I'm making light of a lot of this because it's never happened before,
Right.
but Snopes does have a somewhat, thematically related kind of incident. Though it's impossible to be scooped or sucked up into a water bomber, there has been at least one injury to a swimmer resulting from coming too near to one while it was in the process of reloading.
Oh.
In 1998, a swimmer in Corsica was caught in eddies caused by a bombardier and thrown against a landing stage. I guess it's just saying the bucket went in the water, was sucking stuff up, and this swimmer did get sucked to the hole,
Oh.
which
And then
is no good.
no, and then I drowned or something because they were like attached to it? Like they couldn't get away? I don't really understand.
She suffered a bruised leg.
Oh,
That's it.
okay, all right.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
it.
so then it's like
not
if you
even-
put the vacuum on your leg.
Yeah, it's not even like Chuck Palahniuk guts or something like that, where it just like vacuums you out.
Honestly, it's so strange that you say that. That came to me, I'm going to say either yesterday morning or this morning. For some reason, I just thought of that. And I was like, ugh, how miserable. So it's a weird thing that just came up.
The Chuck Palahniuk short story Guts was almost passed around. It was part of like an anthology of stories.
Yeah.
But it was almost shared around online to people to gross each
Look at
other
this
out.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, which is like some kid, sits his butt down on like
It's disgusting.
some sort of a vent thing at the bottom of a pool and gets
His inside
fused
sucked
to
out.
it. Yeah,
And it's like
exactly.
very evocatively described.
incredibly evocatively described. Chuck Palahniuk has never written anything that didn't make me want to throw up.
I know. And yet when I was a teenager and I wanted to be cool,
I know.
I was like, yeah, Chuck Palahniuk, hell yeah. But
There
I was
was
like,
no
"Oh."
edgier writer to be into.
No.
Maybe Bret Easton Ellis.
Oh, also a big herc.
Hork.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still not sure about that.
You and me both, sister. Okay.
Good one.
Thanks.
So I thought this was pretty clever, honestly, on Snopes' part. It has been suggested that the legend's origin lies in a collection of how did this person die puzzles. Because it is such a cut and dry tale of contrast.
Yeah.
Forest fire, and there's a body in a tree dressed as if they were going scuba diving.
Right.
How did it happen? You ask 20 questions to unravel it.
Yeah, it could be part of, what's that game we play?
Crack the Case.
Yeah.
Dad's favorite game. Which is like to say that essentially it was contrived because it is unlikely and absurd.
Yeah.
Right? But then it sort of, I guess for some reason, this in particular was such an evocative story or such a fun, like, that seems impossible, that people started to tell each other about it and became known as something of an urban legend.
Yeah.
They also say that the appeal of the legend lies in a combination of a few factors that I thought they were pretty much right about. One, people are endlessly fascinated by dumb way to die stories. Can you believe this guy died that way?
For sure.
It's like the Darwin Awards or something like that, which is, when it actually has happened, is very bleak.
Yes, I know. It's really messed up.
What an idiot for dying in an unlikely way.
I know, and they have like a family and stuff. Don't give that person a Darwin Award that their family's aware of.
It's pretty, we should look at that.
Ugh.
It speaks to our fear of being caught in the wrong place at the wrong time and of dying in a freak accident, which means that it's one of those sort of like, you get to point at it and go like, that happened to somebody else.
Right.
It lets you feel distanced from a dangerous thing, thereby feeling safe. The puzzlement of the authorities trying to figure out how did this guy end in the tree is seen as amusing to the readers who may have already figured out what happened, thus giving them that I'm smarter than they are kind of feeling. These are great pieces of analysis. I think
so
the
too.
reasons why people would latch onto this.
Yep.
Now, I did find this is a story. This myth has been used in pop culture in a few different ways. A big one is a movie I've never seen before called.
I've never heard of this before.
You've never heard of this legend before?
No.
Wow. I'm actually going to prove you wrong in a second.
Okay.
But the movie Magnolia.
I've never seen Magnolia.
I've never seen Magnolia.
Oh, really?
I've never seen it.
I thought that you have and you liked it.
No, never saw it.
Oh, okay.
But evidently they talk about this legend because I think Magnolia is one of those movies where it's like, can you believe how intertwined people's lives often are? And this is used as an example of like, it's incredibly unlikely that it would happen, but it happened.
Okay.
So it's used to good effect for their story.
I do want to see Magnolia, but clearly not badly enough.
Yeah, I guess.
Because I guess I would have seen it. But
I would like to watch it.
Me too.
Yeah. It was in season 2, episode 5 of CSI.
Oh, okay. Then
So I know for a fact you've seen it. We used to literally I'm surprised this hasn't come up in some way, shape, or form.
I think it has.
We used to collectively, mainly the three of us. I think Mom, you probably watched a few with. I know our mom's watching live.
Yeah.
You probably watched a few with us.
But it's like not necessarily her jam, really.
Right.
Yeah.
We would buy the complete seasons of CSI and then very deliberately go episode 1, episode 2, watch them all together. And so I remember this episode where they find a scuba diver in a tree. I didn't remember what happened. The episode is called Scuba Dooby Doo.
What a show.
Well, hell of a
It
show.
seems like a good thing. Honestly, so the reason I know that we've talked about it before on the show is that one, maybe 2 people have reached out to us and said, I would love to hear you guys talk about CSI.
Oh, really?
Because we must have mentioned it. Yeah.
I would love to talk about CSI. There are some crazy storylines on CSI.
Yeah.
So they do find a scuba diver in a tree in a forest fire, and they really have to piece out what happened. They do discuss the notion of being dumped from a bucket thing, and they're like, no, it didn't happen that way. And it seems almost crazier.
What happens?
Yeah, it's like the guy was murdered, and then his body was placed in the forest to make people think his death happened like an accident, like the original urban legend.
Yeah.
But really, he was murdered and placed in a wetsuit.
That is crazy.
That is
and then he has to be
crazy.
placed up in a tree?
No.
Oh.
The fire ignited the oxygen tank, which blasted him up into the tree. That is like the dumbest possible.
Once again, what a show.
Bravo. I mean, honestly, I read it and I was like, that is so stupid. And then I was like, oh, but how entertaining.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that
How
show was so
entertaining.
fun.
Yeah. All right, we're moving on to my next urban legend. I had never heard of this, and it is a shorty.
Okay.
This is the definition of a quick bite. Wikipedia lists it, so we're following the
Absolutely. We're following orders.
Yep. Alexandria's Genesis.
I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's because I'm tired. I got like really crappy sleep last night. The titles of both of your things so far, I'm like, what are these words together?
Some of them are just not I couldn't agree more with you. Alexandria's Genesis. I could not figure this out.
What is this?
At a glance, I was like, about the libraries of Alexandria that were burned in Rome. No, it's so weird. There was, I guess, in the late aughts, around 2008, and this seemed to be mostly a thing for young girls, I guess. A story went around. I'm gonna read to you from an article written for the website Skeptoid, which was originally published by Mike Weaver in 2013. He says, "My daughter asked me the other day if there was such a condition as Alexandria's Genesis. Apparently, stories of this rare genetic mutation were going around at school and on her social media sites. The claims for this mutation are quite impressive. So this is something that might happen to you. You might be born with Alexandria's Genesis, or perhaps you befall it. Here's what it is. Purple eyes.
Okay.
No body hair, except for the hair on your head.
This isn't sounding terrible so far.
Shimmering white skin that never burns.
Again, not so bad.
Lack of menstruation for women.
Wouldn't hate it.
While maintaining fertility, long life, good health. She was quite skeptical, and with good reason."
What?
This sounds like some sort of a condition you would like want to get to become magical.
That's exactly. I was like, this is like fanfic of something that sounds kind of awesome. I mean, it sounds like you're sort of like the I don't know, the perfect beauty standard for America, at least. Yeah. Hairless.
The specimen. Yeah. Right. Well, you are dead on.
Uh-huh.
The origin of Alexandria's Genesis is from fan fiction.
Oh, okay.
You cannot find the original story anymore. I did trace down where it would have been, and now it's like, this domain is parked free.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. It was Daria fan fiction.
Oh.
Daria.
Weird.
Was a cartoon show. It's a spin-off. What?
I was being Daria in the intro to Daria. She is...
Oh, God, okay. Kristen's now cosplaying as Daria, I guess.
Aren't I always?
Yeah.
Daria's in gym class, and they, throw the volleyball to her, and it passes her, and then she puts her arm up. People used to call me Daria in high school.
Is that right?
Yes.
So Daria is a show that we would have seen when we were in high school.
Yeah.
And well, I guess somebody was writing Daria fan fiction. It's a spin-off, believe it or not, of Beavis and Butthead, which is weird.
It's a kick-ass show.
I remember really liking that show.
Oh, yeah.
Really liking that show. But it was evidently written by Cameron McQuillan, who wrote it on some sort of a Daria blog. And I guess one of the characters ended up having Alexandria's Genesis.
Okay.
But they even, when they eventually took credit and were like, I came up with that. Because people started sharing it, being like, this is a condition you might have.
Oh, man.
They were like, it's a combination of like, magical creatures and Twilight.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole thing was just like a condition that makes you special.
Yeah. Like beautiful.
Beautiful purple eyes.
Yeah.
Nobody has purple eye. How
sparkling skin.
Right.
Hairless. Don't menstruate.
Frankly, I am shocked that this is on Wikipedia as an urban legend, because this is just an invention for Daria fanfic.
Strange. Just for people to know, Daria was a cartoon show about like a teenage girl who was surly.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but again, like you said, we don't make the rules.
Yeah.
Wikipedia says that's an urban legend.
We're
there you
calling
go.
it an urban legend.
Alexandria's Genesis.
That's so weird.
What a great bizarre name.
Yeah, totally.
And the last urban legend that I will be talking to you about is one of my favorites of all time.
Mm-hmm.
This is one that I was told as a kid and made me scared a little bit for a while. The slasher under the car.
Oh, yeah.
Which goes by other names. The ankle slicing car thief, or the man under the car.
Yep. A classic. This is one of the big boys.
This one I actually turned to one of the creators of urban legends, the term, Jan Harold Brunvand, who covers this story in one of his books. Ironically, for what you're going to be talking about, called The Baby Train, and other lusty urban legends.
Ooh.
So he says, back in 1984, I received a report from the Midwest of the slasher under the car from a woman in Fort Wayne, Indiana. She heard the event happened at a shopping mall near Chicago. Essentially, a woman goes shopping alone. When she comes back to her car with, her shopping bags, she opens the door, and then a hand reaches out from underneath the car and slices at her ankle.
Mm-hmm.
In the shock of it all, she is either, one, grabbed and taken under the car herself.
Yeah.
Or the man under the car emerges to steal the car and drive off.
Mm-hmm.
The slicing of the ankle to begin with is really just to sort of shock you.
Yeah.
And disorient you so that he can get away. So when the slashed woman, this is back from the book, when the slashed woman reached down toward her injury, the man grabbed her hands and pulled her under the car. Which that makes me think of like horror stories I know I've seen before where like somebody pulls somebody under a bed.
Yeah.
And then they disappear almost into another realm or something
definitely.
like that. Cars are low to the ground,
I know, that's the thing. You wouldn't be able to do that.
No. Another version from 1984 pinpointed the crime site as a mall in Crown Point, Indiana.
Oh, wow.
This guy, Jan Harold Brunvand, really was a collector of all this folklore.
Yeah.
And so occasionally he was able to pinpoint, like, I heard this about this particular place, which is fun because urban legends are typically treated as generally as humanly possible.
Yeah.
And have no true origin.
Right.
This attacker would roll out from under a woman's car, cut her ankles, and then steal both the packages and the car. Evidently, a woman in Ohio also wrote to Jan Harold Brunvand about it, and she had raised some pretty good questions. She wondered how the slasher would know that a lone woman had driven the car to the mall and that she would return alone.
It's a good question.
Why wouldn't the woman shout out for help? Why does the man hide under the car rather than waiting inside?
Yeah.
Right? And why does he slash at the ankles? There are a few answers to this question.
All fair questions.
And they're answers that I think have been essentially created by other people telling the story, recognizing the same plot hole,
right,
and then supplying a new story beat that satisfies the question. Like these stories, urban legends, to me, more than anything, is they are social storytelling that get refined person by person by person until they are all of a sudden just like a pure, unimpeachable, scary tale.
Right, and then that just gets passed on.
I'm sure some people embellishes other things where it's like he's dressed like Santa.
Right.
And he slashes her ankle. And then maybe that got told a few times and people were like, stopped being obsessed with that one.
Ditch the Santa.
It's like evolution. So that strain of the story dies.
Right.
And the prime version moves on. Survival of the fittest. The good, pure, scary story is left.
Yeah.
Women appeared to be the chief narrators of this legend, using it to warn others against patronizing certain malls or against parking a long distance from other cars, especially at night. So again, cautionary tales.
Yeah.
Be careful, have your wits about you, check under your cars, don't travel alone at night. And honestly, it's good safety advice packaged as a horrific what if.
And it's interesting and not really surprising that the urban legend is specifically about a woman this happening to.
I know.
Because women are the subject of so much violence and stuff. And
absolutely.
Like, we do have to look out a little bit more.
I the first time that I ever heard, maybe it was even with you, I'm not sure, or one of I was friends, I've always been friends mostly with women. Somebody mentioned like that thing of holding your keys between your knuckles.
Oh, yeah.
I heard that when I was in my teens, and I was like, what are you talking? No one ever told me that.
I
they were
know.
like, yeah, you're not a girl.
I know, it's really messed up.
And it made me like cringe. Like, oh my God, there's a whole other rule set and social strata that is applied for women because you have to be cautious and fearful all the goddamn time. Yeah. I'm sure there are 1,000,001 that I don't know, but I remember hearing that one and being like, holy shit.
Yeah, I know. It's really screwed up.
Yeah. The earliest report Jan Harold Brunvand ever got was from the 1950s. A lot of these urban legends seem to come from the 50s. This would be when this initial term was sort of being coined.
Yeah.
But he says in March 1991, as he talks about a million different instances of this, I thought this one stood out to me. In March 1991, the Asbury Park Press quoted police statements denying rampant rumors about this crime happening at the Freehold Raceway Mall. Which is...
hell of a mall.
It's a hell of a mall.
Yeah.
It's one of the further malls for us, but it's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big mall.
Yep. It has, what's it called? A merry-go-round in it.
Yeah, that's right. And that was almost like a destination mall to go to when I was a teenager or something like that. I love seeing something like this when it like hits closer to home and you're like, oh my God.
I know.
People thought that the ankle-slicing car thief was under cars at Freehold?
Right.
That's ridiculous. He slashes his victim's Achilles tendon.
Yeah.
So they cannot run.
That's what I figured. That's like a big one where you're like really bleed hardcore.
This I distinctly remember a kid telling me about in Missouri when we lived there. I don't remember the context. I wasn't driving a car when I was 13. But the notion was, and it was less about this guy's going to steal your car. This was more of like the way it was told to me. Like, there are just people out in the world who want to hurt you.
Yeah.
Right? And so he was like, oh, you got to be careful walking past cars at night because somebody might reach out and cut your Achilles tendon, which, as it was described to me, and I don't know if this is true, would make your foot just not work.
I don't know.
You snip that, and below the ankle, it all just falls
that's scary.
Limp or something.
I think I thought it was just that it's like a major artery or blood source or something, so you just like bleed out very quickly, and so you're really messed up.
I mean, tendons don't carry blood, but other stuff. I mean,
yeah, you're right.
It's a big
that
chunk
doesn't make any sense.
It's a big chunk of flesh or whatever there.
Yeah,
you don't want that severed.
Yeah,
but it was described to me that way because, like, if you even then like fell to the ground, you couldn't even push yourself back up on your feet.
Yeah,
because it's like you're trying to like balance yourself on top of like ventriloquist doll.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess I've just always equated with like instant incapacitation in some, or quick incapacitation in some way.
Yeah, and that scared the hell out of me.
That is scary.
I remember I have looked under cars and then tried to get in them from way too far away when I was 13.
Yeah.
But it never had the association of like this guy's gonna drag me under the car.
Yeah.
Like it never had like other frightening connotations.
No, I mean I guess I never thought about it before or thought about it as an urban legend, but I've also been aware of the idea of somebody being under your car and slashing the backs of your ankles.
Yeah, again, the original urban legend concept was that it's told to you as if it's a story that actually happened.
Yeah.
Some of these don't really have a cut and dry story. They're a concept that people will be like, I heard somebody hides under your car and will cut your ankles. Is that really a story?
Yeah.
Does it have a beginning, middle, and end?
Right.
This isn't like this happened to this person.
It's not like the Hook Man or something.
Yeah, exactly. A couple was on Lover's Lane.
Right.
But so for that reason, it probably wouldn't satisfy the original definition. Although Jan Harold Brunvan does cover it in the Baby Train book. So
yeah, true.
I guess it did rise up.
Yeah.
Evidently, people talking about this concept and like calling in reports and being paranoid and stuff got so rampant at some point that it did become part of general warning pamphlets from the police in like Michigan.
Oh, really?
Where they're like, be careful of your cars. We've heard that some people are sneaking under cars and they'll cut your ankles to then get you. Like it became true.
Yeah.
Became a true safety tip.
Right.
Even though it was fake to begin with. Snopes, for the record,
it's like,
says it never happened.
I guess it's like it certainly can't hurt to tell people to be careful getting into their cars.
Certainly.
I suppose. So,
certainly.
Whatever.
Now, Snopes says never happened. Snopes says nope. But something weird happened, Kristen.
Okay.
I've lately enjoyed putting something on our screen on our set when we record, something that is like evocative of one of the topics somehow. And I was like, I wonder what image I could have for this ankle cutter.
God, somebody with a sliced Achilles tendon, you sicko. I don't want to see that.
I Googled ankle slasher under car. And instead of getting some image evoking the urban legend, I got a genuine news headline.
Yeah.
Snopes says it never happened. And maybe they're right. But I did find this headline from the Daily News from 2016. Quote, man arrested for hiding under cars to touch women's feet.
Oh, God.
Claims, I was hiding under the vehicle simply for the visual.
That doesn't help.
Doesn't help
Yeah.
at all. Jesse M. Johnson was arrested for disturbing the peace last week when he snuck under a 48-year-old woman's car in an Aldi parking lot. As she went to get in her car, she felt a hand grab her ankle.
Oh, my God.
I was hiding under the vehicle simply for the visual.
Well, then why'd you grab?
He said after his arrest, claiming he only looked and never touched her feet. She shrieked in terror as the strange man rolled out from under her car.
This is terrible.
Before fleeing on foot. I just have this weird addiction and odd behavior, he said. I don't know why. Which is the horror in and of itself. I'm compelled to.
Ugh.
So he maybe didn't slice her ankle to steal her car.
No, but he hid under her car and then grabbed her.
As recently as 7 years ago, a man hid under a car
Ugh.
and grabbed at someone's ankles when they went back.
God.
So maybe the literal slasher under the car didn't happen, but like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, that's so freaky.
Nightmare.
Yes.
True nightmare. Now, the other listings in the A section of the Urban Legends Wikipedia page, one is Annabelle.
Yep.
Which Kristen and I immediately were like, oh, we've done that before. We haven't done that before.
No, we 100% have.
Are you sure?
I'm positive because I remember I was telling you about it and you were like, I'm genuinely getting a chill.
I'm trying to think. Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't see the episode number for that then.
Okay.
And Area 51, which we covered in episode 89 of Guide to the Unknown.
Yeah.
So everybody, go find the Annabelle one. I was going to try to provide people with
see.
sources and stuff.
Why don't you start telling them about Patreon and I'm going to see if I can find it in my notes.
Okay, we're going to see if Chrissy can prove me wrong. But until that...
No, I am absolutely positive.
God, I hope more than anything.
I think it was
hope
when
you
I was
can't
still
find
handwriting notes.
Yeah, see, you can't find any evidence.
I think it was Annabelle and the Easter Bunny. I think that's what this episode was.
Could that be?
I'm going to find it. Don't worry.
God, I hope not. God, I hope I'm right.
I could be wrong, but I have no doubt in my mind that I told you about Annabelle.
Because I was going to say otherwise, I bet Annabelle could be its own episode.
It absolutely could be. It's already been wasted.
Yeah, let's see what Chrissy cooks up with.
Yeah.
But until she pulls something out of her ass.
Episode 23, The Easter Bunny and Annabelle.
How dare you? How dare you know that?
Yep, episode 23.
You make me sick.
I know.
Anyway, if you're enjoying Guide to the Unknown and you want more, I have great news for you. We're 274 episodes into this entire experiment. Go check it out. All major podcast apps. There's a YouTube version, youtube.com/@GTTUpod. Subscribe, follow, share, all of that kind of stuff. We even record these episodes live, so follow @GTTUpod to get notified about stuff like that.
Yeah.
But here's the deep cut good stuff. Patreon.com/GTTUpod is where you can not only support us in our endeavor to share scary stories with the world and celebrate and have fun while we do it, but you get an entire second podcast called The Netherworld Dispatch. This is such a fun show to do. Kristen and I are often watching shows, playing games, sharing like more sort of like personal kind of stories occasionally over there. And there are different tiers, just like most Patreons. So go there, whatever works best for you. Feel free to dive in. And in all likelihood, you're going to end up getting a bunch of stuff. For every single tier, you get access to our Discord, which is a private community to talk about things with a ton of people in there talking about Scream 6.
Yes,
books.
obviously.
There's a book club in there, which is very fun. And then the higher tiers get access to the exclusive shows. If you join our Demon tier, you get a new episode of the podcast every single week. The most recent episode was 95, where we watched the Unsolved Mysteries episode where they talk about Roswell.
Yeah.
Last week on the main show, I had covered the true story of Roswell, and then we watched how Unsolved Mysteries did it, compared and contrasted, what was exaggerated. It was very, very fun.
Yeah, so you get to hear Robert Stack's dulcet tones alongside our own.
Yeah, absolutely.
What could be better?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing could be better. Patreon.com/ GTTU pod. And thank you to everybody who backs us there currently. Thank you to anybody who might consider doing it in the future. We greatly appreciate it.
Yes.
We indeed depend on
Yes.
you, rely on you. And thank you all so much. It is so much fun doing these shows. Genuinely can't thank you enough.
Yeah.
Please also consider sharing these shows however you prefer to, tweeting, throw something on Facebook, Instagram stories.
Just texting your friend about it.
Absolutely. And you can always review us on Apple Podcasts, which is greatly appreciated.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for doing those sorts of things.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on over to the bees.
The bees, the B-sides.
The birds and the bees, as a matter of fact. Because as you mentioned, I have
that
the
a myth?
baby train. No,
The baby train.
to start off with. But the baby train was created by the birds and the bees.
What is the birds and the bees? What are they doing?
I feel like isn't this a story of love? Like the birds and the bees, and that's how babies happen or something?
That's the shorthand for, like, I told him about the birds and the bees, but
Yeah.
they don't do anything together, the birds and the bees.
I don't think so.
I assume there's something to do with pollination,
But where do the birds come in?
twigs and
A
berries.
hummingbird. It must be. Well, speaking of twigs and berries, this is a legend from the United States, the UK, and Australia about a small town, which town it is can change, that experiences a baby boom because of a train passing in the night at such a time that it's too late to go back to sleep, but too early to wake up. So to pass the time, couples resort to having sex. And then
What?
this creates a surplus of children.
I don't think I even understand.
So what they're saying is that in certain towns that there will be a train that passes at night that has a loud whistle or whatever that's waking everybody up, and everybody's awake and like, oh, I can't go back to sleep. I shouldn't get up yet. I know. And then they have
Put on
sex.
some Barry White.
Yeah.
Got it.
Right. And then have like more babies in the average town because they're like on this train's path.
This is crazy.
That's
Had you ever heard
really
this before?
No.
If you just heard
Baby train.
baby train.
No, I would think it was babies manning a train.
Okay. the fabled baby train. Choo choo. Is it a big train or is it a baby-sized, proportional for them train?
Let's see. What am I picking? No, it's a big train. It's a big train.
How are they doing that?
I don't know. That's why it's an urban legend. That's the mystery.
Too big, too dangerous for a baby.
Yeah, no, I'm not co-signing this.
Right.
But when I hear the words baby train, I'm picturing babies on a train.
I picture Batman Returns.
Okay.
Remember when Buggy Ding Dong is piloting that little
Yeah.
that little choo-choo thing and
Yep.
is stealing all the firstborn sons of Gotham? Mm-hmm. That's a baby train.
That's a baby train for you. Yeah,
Baby
you're
train
absolutely
takes
right.
the babies away. That's what I think.
No, I was picturing like a baby conductor.
How cheerful. I guess what a lovely thing that you thought it was for a moment.
Yeah. No, but that was snatched from me.
I know, by this disgusting, perverse.
Yeah, absolutely. What's wrong with you people?
Have some dignity.
Get up, get a glass of warm milk, come back in bed and sleep for an hour.
Come back to your separate beds.
Yes, of course.
your beds separate.
Like we should all have.
With your separate reading lights.
Yeah.
Directly overhead. Again, like Lucille Ball.
Yes.
Or something, right? Like,
yeah, like Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore.
Yes. There should be no contact.
No.
Sickening.
It's disgusting. But that's basically all that it is.
That's all it is?
Yeah.
That's so stupid.
It's so
Is it real?
No. It seems like it is similar to sometimes factual numbers of births increasing after things like blackouts,
Yeah.
storms, natural disasters, like stuff like that, where you're like really locked down for a while. Not
Right.
that you're awake for like an hour. And
What
you
am
just
I gonna do?
immediately
Yeah.
get to it.
You know what I would do?
No
In that town,
way, Jose.
when the train comes by and it wakes everybody up in the middle of the night, I reach over to my bedside table for my spray bottle with water in it, tell Al I'll be right back, and I go around the neighborhood spraying everybody. No, stop that. Stop that.
No, that's not good.
It's not good.
We don't do that in this neighborhood.
It's too late at night.
You guys are all sick. I'm bringing this up at the next town hall meeting.
Make me sick.
You're all disgusting.
Yeah.
Not in my town. So that's the whole thing.
That's ridiculous.
I know.
People were telling each other this story?
I guess I was very surprised to hear that
surprised.
guy who writes the urban legend books or whatever.
Jan Harold Brunvand.
Of course.
I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Jan.
Okay.
Jan?
Yeah, I think it is Jan for real. When I read this, I assumed that this must be a little told story because there's like nothing to it and it's so dumb. I'm surprised to hear that it's, part of that book. But
The full title makes a lot more sense now. The Baby Train and Other Lusty Tales.
Yeah.
Lusty.
Lusty.
Yucky. Icky.
I know that you're awake and it's like too early to get up, but when you factor in all the time that it takes to unbutton your pajamas that are unbuttoned all the way to your chin and extend all the way to the floor, you shouldn't have time for anything else.
No, especially because most married couples, if they're doing it right, they should have a bunch of mouse traps in between those two beds.
To make sure that nobody is getting funny in the middle of the night.
No funny business.
No, this is for sleep.
Yes, I'm trying to rest.
So this story is patently ridiculous and patently false because all of the God-fearing people that we know would never do this sort of thing.
No.
It makes me sick. All right, the next one is The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs.
Yeah.
A beautiful one that you covered in episode 57. So this is the classic, like, when a stranger calls sort of story where there's a babysitter, she gets a call, it's menacing, and she finds out that the call is coming from inside the house.
One of the greatest stories.
It's great.
Of all time. I've done extensive research.
I know. To tell you, so you definitely talked about the movie When a Stranger Calls in episode 57. I think, and I could be wrong, that you talked about really the urban legend of The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs separate from the movie in another episode, but I couldn't figure out how to find it.
Oh, is that right?
So,
at some point I was dancing around doing a separate podcast about specifically urban legends. So I've done heavy research into The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs. Even so far as like looking at when phones were invented, when different features were tacked on, from party line to private line to two lines in the same house. And if I recall correctly, there was a real life murder. Yeah,
I know you talked about this. I don't know what we called it. I couldn't find it.
Interesting. But, yeah, so it's in our archives somewhere. If somebody knows, let us know, because I would like to point people there at least.
Yep.
But this is one of my by far favorite stories. It is part of the skeletal structure that eventually gave us Scream, which I think of as really just a new evolution.
Yeah.
A new, more modern variety.
A new nightmare.
A new modern variety of that original urban legend.
Yeah.
It used to be, if you were getting a threatening phone call, you knew you were safe for now, because the man threatening you over the phone was tethered with a wire to the phone's base somewhere far away.
Right.
With two lines, oh my God, he might be calling from within the house. And then Scream, with cell phones, very astutely realized, well, shit. Now
they could be in your house or right outside.
Delivering a threatening phone call could be breathing down your neck. Love this myth. Truly scary. Can't get enough of it, to be honest.
It's a beautiful one.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next one is the Backrooms, which I think is weird to call an urban legend.
Totally agreed.
It's a fully fictional story, and nobody even purported that it's real or anything. Like it was just created online. So this is a concept that started in a 2019 4chan thread about, and the thread was about unsettling images, and somebody said like, oh, post images that are like unsettling or make you feel like ill at ease. And in that thread, the concept of liminal spaces came up early and then caught on. So this is kind of an internet-y sort of term, liminal spaces, or at least this interpretation of it, of usually like bustling places being empty and feeling weird. So like an office full of empty cubicles, empty high school hallways, things like that. Now, this concept caught on and became really a big thing over on Reddit, which is the home of creepypastas, and got adapted into the concept of the backrooms. It was said over on Reddit that you could pass out of reality in certain areas and end up in what they called the backrooms, a seemingly endless maze of office rooms and office spaces. And what they initially referred to just like ending up in the backrooms as no clipping into the backrooms. Do you know what that is?
I think so. I think,
thought you might.
Yeah, this is like a very video gamey term. So like, I'll just try to make it as dumbed down as possible because I'm not even sure that I could.
Well, I have a really short explanation for it.
It's like if Mario,
if you know.
It's like if Mario falls through the floor of a level, which can happen in some games. Like in Grand Theft Auto 5, you might all of a sudden you crash your car into a wall and you perfectly hit the seam between two different parts of the wall and your character goes through it.
Yeah.
And then you're seeing the video game world from the bottom up. And
Right.
it doesn't look right from down there.
Yeah.
You're seeing the underside of that game's reality.
Yeah, you've like passed through reality. And it was called that because you could turn off the clipping function on some games.
Oh, I guess clipping is like how something has boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Like if there's clipping, like you can't walk through a wooden door.
Right.
You have to turn the knob and push it open, and then you can go through the open doorway.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you turned off clipping, you could walk through the door. It has no more boundary to it than air.
Yeah. So they called it no clipping.
Gotcha.
That you could just end up in the back rooms.
Gotcha.
So this is obviously a really fun and freaky concept, and people have run with it, and they've written stories about creatures that might live in the back rooms, different levels of the back rooms, and there are just like tons of stories and videos out there about them. And it seems like one of the earliest mentions of them in April 2019 by an anonymous user on a paranormal board on 4chan, which was in response to that post about unsettling places, is this one image that's taken at like almost like a Dutch angle, which is like sort of a diagonal angle of an office space with like those, rectangular lights on the ceiling that are recognizable to a lot of people, that is cleared out of cubicles and everything, and has this like kind of weird yellow lighting. And people really grasped onto this particular photo, and then a ton of things sprung out from that. This is like the origins of the back room.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, because it is very like like an empty office place, disgusting industrial yellow fluorescent lighting. That
but like
makes
yellow.
Yeah. That makes you feel like icky and gross.
Yeah, like headachy. And so in reply to that picture, inspired by the picture, another anonymous user wrote this: "If you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the back rooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell heard you."
Okay.
So this guy named Chris Freeward saw this on 4chan, couldn't stop thinking about it, and then he's the one who brought it over to Reddit's creepypasta, where it really took off. And people started writing stories based on the same picture or using new ones as springboards for different Backrooms stories. So there's a full Backrooms subreddit now, and also a true Backrooms subreddit, which is for stories that are purely about the original photo.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So just the straight up Backrooms is home to stories, images, and videos about spaces that could just be conceptually related, like abandoned hotels and tunnels. So like anything that they see is that sort of like liminal space, somewhere that should be bustling and busy but isn't. Maybe it's part of a different dimension or reality.
Seems like it's almost always some sort of a man-made place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's true. And then True Backrooms is only for stories based on the original photo, that yellowy photo, and then maybe adjoining rooms or hallways, but they all maintain that same yellow lighting vibe and office setting.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And this guy who brought it over to Reddit, Chris Freeward, thinks that it's caught on because of the familiarity of the concept. Especially in the early 2000s, there were all these weird, like very 80s and 90s relics around that just sort of felt out of place, and they were oftentimes empty because of it. And a lot of us have seen that sort of thing before, and it is weird.
An abandoned office building that's just sort of sitting there, an entire floor of a building that's not in use.
Right.
It does make me think of that urban legend thing, which I think we talked about in episode 13, a million years ago, the 13th floor.
Ah, yeah.
How some buildings have a 13th floor, it's just not in use.
Right.
It's sitting there.
Yeah, it is
empty.
very much like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, really strange. And then I wonder if it could almost be like the uncanny valley concept, but applied to places instead of people.
Yeah.
Like it's unsettling, but intriguing at the same time. Like there's just something that's not quite right and not quite real about it.
There is something, and like we've both worked in office buildings. I've worked late. I've worked on weekends.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
it's like a lot of office buildings are designed to be as almost like hollow and vanilla as possible.
Yeah.
This is why people decorate their cubicles. Because you've got to find some way to personalize this otherwise very generalized, corporate, tacky,
Yeah.
hollow, industrial, like this desk works. It is solid. You put your computer on it, done.
Right.
It is beige. Like everything is
Yeah.
kind of ugly.
Yeah.
And if you dim it a little bit, or if you remove all the furniture in this case,
Totally.
it gives it such an uncomfortable, there's not a chair to sit in.
Yeah.
Like you would have to just like, if you walked around trying to find your way out, like Blair Witch getting lost in the woods that seemed to loop infinitely.
Right.
You don't
The
even
hallways would just be changing.
You don't even have a log to sit on.
Yeah.
You have to sit on the same stretch of floor forever.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Totally. I used to work on Saturdays in an office building and nobody else was there, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was so fun. So fortuitously, this week they just announced that there is going to be a Backrooms movie from Kane Parsons, who's a YouTuber who has taken the concept and the original Backrooms, like yellow lit room that we were just talking about, and made videos of like weird creatures and things within the hallways and the rooms or whatever.
Did you watch this short film?
No.
I have not seen it. My understanding of it is that it's pretty ingeniously made, that like the constructed hallways are modeled. They're like 3D modeled, but then he has motion tracked the camera so that anytime that he sort of like moved his head to look around a corner, the movie character, it's almost like a found footage type feeling where you're just seeing this first person perspective.
Yeah.
Like it's very it's not smooth moving cameras. It's a little bit of shaky cam.
Yeah.
Like you are the person who's running through this hallway, and so the camera will bob as your head bobs because you're running.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. And it's not in the article that no, here it is. Never mind. So, Kane Parsons is only 17 years old.
Yeah.
And he's going to work on this during his summer vacation.
I love this.
I know.
I've seen many people online. Now, I can't pretend that, you look at me and I'm aging rapidly.
Aren't we all?
Like an old plum in the sun.
Aren't we all?
I cannot pretend to be some young buck.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people online being like, he's 17 and he's getting his own movie.
Who cares?
And I'm like, one, I get that. I can get that sort of jealousy.
Yeah.
But also, he hit something really, really cool.
I think if you got it, you got it.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations and crush it. I will definitely... now I really am interested. One thing that I wanted to do, because I thought it was showing, I thought it was a game. I thought it was a video game.
Okay.
So I tried to find it.
I had literally never heard of this before. Okay. So,
I knew it very,
you're
very
not
distantly.
More out of it than I am.
Yeah, I thought it was a video game. So I tried to find it. Kristen, whoa. There are dozens of video games called
huge.
Backrooms subtitle. Backrooms, that subtitle.
Yeah.
Too many that I don't have enough
Like,
time.
what's the one?
I need the
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm gathering from you is that similar to the SCP Foundation,
It totally reminded me of the SCP Foundation.
it's less of a singular thing and more of a platform for stories that a million people have taken in different directions. And I guess Kane Parsons' particular iteration seems to be the singular one that hit for film.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But somebody else might have the one that works for games.
Exactly.
A million people might have short stories that each individually really crush. But his is the one that's going to work for movies.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's
That's
very
what it
interesting.
seems like. And he's going to get to work with James Wan on it, which is totally awesome.
That's amazing.
I know. Also, if you're curious about the SCP files, we talked about those in episode 147.
Yeah. Go
It's a similar
check that
kind
out.
of concept.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last thing I'm going to talk about is very fun, is the Bandage Man.
Oh.
Have you heard about this before ever?
No, but I
hadn't
love
either.
I love that name.
This has been great, this Wikipedia thing, because there's a bunch of stuff. I guess this week. I think that the first time we did, I think I did know the things I talked about, but I'd never heard of any of these things before.
That's
so
why
this
I
is
love
fun.
this, because usually
Yeah.
on Guide to the Unknown, we're sort of picking the topics based on our whims, our feelings of I want something ghosty this time.
Right.
I like that we occasionally have something where we're they're going to tell us what we're going to look at.
Totally.
It is a little bit refreshing to get to experience things that I've never heard of before, ever.
No, I didn't know about any of these things. So my source for the Bandage Man was westsideportlandinsurance.com, which I love.
Good God.
And kudos to these business writers finding ways to insert weird stuff onto their website and in their job.
I love seeing people find places for horror in their everyday lives.
I know.
Wendy's. Because we're all so tired after the vacation, we were like, screw it. We're getting Wendy's for dinner one night. And I got a kid's meal and it was Scooby-Doo themed.
Yeah.
There's no movie out. There's no
just
nothing
having some
out.
fun. Well, Velma?
I guess, but
The
it
HBO show?
certainly wasn't Velma themed.
Yeah.
It's just spooky stuff. Because spooky stuff
Spooky stuff is
slaps.
fun.
Who cares if it's February? Spooky stuff.
Hell
Find the
yeah.
places for scary stuff.
Totally. So this writer found a way to shoehorn in some
Hell
scary
yeah.
stuff on their insurance website. It was for Halloween, but even so, I
don't care.
think it's
It's
very
great.
weird. So the Bandage Man apparently haunts an unused piece of highway near Cannon Beach in Portland, Oregon. It seems like the story originated in the 50s as a campfire tale told by teens who had the perspective of the monster movie boom.
Okay.
Which, if it is surmised, inspired the Bandage Man's mummy-like appearance. They said that he was a logger who was cut to pieces in a sawmill accident, and I guess the full-body bandages are just holding him together. He smells like rotting flesh and is known to jump into vehicles passing by on the quiet road, mostly pickup trucks and convertibles with the top down for ease, but if he's in a persistent mood, he'll punch out the window of a normal car to try to climb his way in.
Oh, God.
Sometimes stinky-smelling bandages are left behind in his wake.
Too stinky.
Too stinky.
I like that that's indicated as some sort of a problem, right? Like the rest of
That
it.
is a problem.
The rest of it, be it what it may. But you left these stinky bandages behind. Not just any bandages. These ones are stinky.
They're stinky and smelly. It seems like it's all just to mess with people. There aren't really reports of him full on harming people.
Yeah. This is truly just a spooky story that people told each other.
Totally. Except there are more violent stories of him eating dogs.
Oh.
But I guess he's not interested in eating people.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a clear cautionary tale of...
No, there definitely isn't. It's just that if you ride on this road, the Bandage Man might come screw with your car, basically.
Well, that stinks.
So this insurance website goes on to say that they got the story from an anonymous woman this story that I'm about to say, excuse me. They got this story from an anonymous woman posting in a local paranormal group. Quote, I've been aware of this story for over 40 years, for I was a child in the community where it got its start. I knew some of the family of the kid that first encountered the Bandage Man. There is an old road that for all the years I was growing up was known as Bandage Man Road. Awesome.
Love it.
I love that. It was just an old section of Highway 101 that had been bypassed when a new section was put in place, but it was still accessible and wasn't very long, just a short loop off of the highway, and the whole thing from end to end could be driven in maybe 5 minutes or so. This loop of road was a popular place for local kids to go park and make out. This was around 1960 to 1961. That is where the story started. One night, two of the local kids were up there doing just what teenage boys and girls do. So talking respectfully.
Maintaining a healthy distance.
Absolutely. When they are parked on dark, lonely roads. Still holds. I don't care what kind of road you're parked on. Leave room for the Lord. The boy had an old Chevy pickup and his girl and he were sitting in the cab. All of a sudden, they felt the truck sort of lean, like something was moving around in the bed of the truck. They turned to look out the rear window, and there looking back was a bandaged face with only some weird-looking eyes showing through the eye holes in the bandages. The bandaged figure started beating on the glass and the top of the cab. The kid started his engine, got it in gear, and tore out of there, his girlfriend screaming in terror as the man in the back continued his pounding. Any of you who've been to Bandage Man Road or Cannon Beach know how curvy the roads are, and to drive them at high speeds is dangerous. On they went. After what seemed an eternity, they made it to downtown Cannon Beach, where the boys' family owned a service station that they lived next door to in the greenhouse. Once they got there, they looked in the back and the bandaged figure was nowhere to be seen.
So this evokes another classic urban legend known as The Vanishing Hitchhiker, which is the name of Jan Harold Brunvan's first book.
Ah, very good.
It was like the preeminent urban legend of its time. The idea being very simply, you are driving, there's a hitchhiker, you pick him up. When you get to the destination, you look back and he's not there anymore. It was a ghost you picked up.
I feel like every fifth episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark had basically a vanishing hitchhiker story.
Yeah, it's very Large Marge from Pee Wee Herman, you know?
Yep.
So it's similar to that. The bandage man might, show up, hop in your pickup truck and beat up your car.
Right.
And then just disappear inexplicably.
Yeah.
That's very weird.
I know. For what purpose? It seems like the bandage man is just getting his kicks.
It does make me wonder, could there have been some sort of a logging accident there? Like, is it a very super specific, localized incident that occurred once a long, long time ago?
I know the logging accident of it all seems kind of specific, but then again, if there is a logging facility, like that's a big fear that something like that would happen. So
Yeah,
it could
that's
just be
definitely true.
Purely just a legend or
That's
whatever.
totally true.
Yeah.
Because the roads are so windy, maybe it arises from some sort of you better drive carefully.
True.
Right? But driving too carefully means the bandage man might punch your car?
Yeah, because if you're driving slowly on the road, then he'll hop into your convertible.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to hear it, but I'm puzzled.
Same here. I don't really get it. But the article wraps up with, at Bill Higley Insurance, we cover a lot of things with our amazing deals on car insurance, but not a haunted Chevy. And was he first spotted in the 1950s or 60s? And why does he just scare teens on a deserted highway? We may never know. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween, Bill Higley.
I know. Good for them.
Good deals. Use promo code GTDUPod at BillHigley.com or whatever.
That'd be amazing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Me too.
Why
it's a
the
great
50s,
name.
Why the 50s and the 60s, by the way?
Yeah.
The Jan Harold Brunvan stuff started around the 1950s and 60s. It's post-war.
Right.
And baby boom.
Yep.
There are a lot of kids.
An actual baby boom.
An actual baby. Yeah, no baby train stuff.
Yeah.
There's a real baby boom. And it's a lot of people that have some time to kill. There's no war happening right now. And this is the sock hop.
Yeah.
So kids are necking and they're telling each other scary stories because it's exciting.
It's
fun.
awesome.
It's fun to be spooky.
And like this article said, they have the context of like the Universal monster movies. So they have this like pretty recent example of scary stuff to draw from.
Yeah,
that was
true.
like huge and like almost ubiquitous.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's very fun.
It's awesome.
Awesome. I love it. I love urban legends
Me
so
too.
goddamn much.
They're great. I really, really love these episodes.
I even love the bandage man concept. Like there was a lot of ickiness surrounding the mummy, right? Like what we're trying to say that like the death rituals of a culture are a monster.
Yeah. No, this is just a guy holding together.
Around it. Yeah. This is just some dude who's held together with bandages. This is an American mummy, damn it.
Yeah, totally. Because I guess his body was like bisected or more than bisected multiple times by a logging machine.
I'm not sure how a logging machine cut every single limb. And does he move a little bit jangly and ungainly?
No description of that.
There's a little dark man in there. I'm fine with this. I like an American mummy.
Me too.
Good, clean American mummy who you can be good and scared of without fear.
You don't have to feel bad about.
Yeah, you don't have to feel any guilt.
Yeah.
This guy's a brute.
That's what we're looking for.
He punched my Chevy.
Yeah, and he left stinky bandages behind.
When you're riding in a Chevy and you feel something heavy.
Bandaged man.
Bandaged man.
Bandaged man.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Guide to the Unknown. Please consider spreading the word. Hit the like, thumbs up, tweet, share, whatever, all that stuff. We greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Yes.
Patreon.com/GTTUpod for the secret side, the back rooms of Guide to the Unknown.
Oh my God.
Follow at GTTUpod to be notified of new episodes or when we're going live, and you can also follow us.
Yep, I'm at Chillin' Kristen.
I'm at The Myth Traveler. We'll see you next time for more, everybody. Until that time comes, we must travel.
Back to the netherworld, go we.
Rip it!
I hope that there are cool urban legends about the netherworld.